All right, guys, welcome back to the U is Silent, We Aren't podcast here in Staunton, Virginia, brought to you by Visit Staunton. I am super excited for our guest here today. We love their music. We love their story. We love the events and the way they give back to Staunton. And I know you guys will too. And we have a journey of stories to cover with them. So please help us welcome Wilson Fairchild. Thank you guys so much. Langdon, Will, thank you guys for joining us here today.
Thank you, Samantha, for the invite. We
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for letting us in. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't let us in, for interviews. So
I had to
this is
tell
a
them
treat.
to unlock the door.
Great.
I'm like,
Great.
listen,
Well, that was a good start.
We get clearance today.
Because we're used to
Bring 'em
breaking
in.
it in. So this is good. Thanks for unlocking the door this time.
You're welcome. I thought I'd, throw a bone. No, I'm kidding. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And I feel like anytime we do chat, you guys have some type of wild story or what you're working on, and just like across, I'm like, okay, all right, there's a lot of life lived there. So and I'm sure it's a lot of the way that you guys write your songs and what you work on. So we'll dive into some of that. But for those listening, many of which already know and love your music, but some that may not, like, tell us a little bit about yourselves and kind of describe your sound and Wilson Fairchild as a band and yourselves as well.
Well, sure. If we were on social media right now, which I guess we really ultimately will
in
be.
some ways.
Yeah.
Check us out on any platform.
Or on stage. Yeah. We would start out with, hello, my name is Will Reed.
And I am Langdon Reed.
And we are Wilson Fairchild, country music duo, dynamic duo.
Awesome. Dynamic.
Awesome.
Terrific.
Somebody has been reading the thesaurus lately. I'm impressed. That's good.
No, and you know what? That's funny. We find in this age too, with everything being so spread out digitally, right? That you can't brand yourself enough. You can do it for 10 years and then the next time there'll be 5 people. I didn't even know y'all were singing,
And they live down the street from you. Exactly. What, really?
Yeah, well, in Minneapolis, they know who we are. So, so we do that a lot. One question we get a lot with Wilson Fairchild is how we got that name.
This is what I was curious about before. Please share.
So a few years ago, Langdon and I have been doing this for a long time, and we're not going to tell you how long we've been singing together. But we wanted a more duo-sounding name, so we came up with Wilson Fairchild because that's our middle names.
Straightforward enough.
Mine is Wilson, his is Fairchild. And, it's one of those, we're always going for the creative side of things, and we thought it sounded good. But we also did it that if the music thing didn't work out, we're going to open up a law firm.
Wilson and Wilson and Wilson and Fairchild.
Oh, okay.
So that's another take.
Yeah.
Or Wilson Fairchild and Associates.
Okay.
Wilson Fairchild Esquire.
Okay.
I think the more that you put on the end of it, the more you can charge.
Legit, it sounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can charge more.
Yeah,
too.
then you can go to like a 10-minute rate.
Right. And we don't even
Yeah.
know any Esquires, but we're going to use that.
Or what lawyers charge, and we're not lawyers. But if we do this, we can come back and do another podcast for the law firm.
And we'll have a whole different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We could meet with clients and have billable hours and everything. This is good work.
So we don't even have to at the end ask what's coming next. You know what?
Right.
Law school.
But right.
That's what's coming up.
But as of today, our law firm sings.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
We entertain. Right. As of today. Right.
Okay.
Singing non-lawyers is what we are right now.
Yeah.
But that's back to Wilson Fairchild. That's who we are.
Right.
You asked, so you got that story.
You know what?
You said
I like
at the
the future
beginning there's a
thinking.
lot of adventures and a lot of wild stories going on. So
Listen, it's what's in the brain also. And right now,
That's right.
yeah.
Esquire. That's what's happening.
Yeah, so
There you go. So the connection with Wilson Fairchild to Staunton and to the musical legacy that we come from is our dads, Harold and Don Reed, members of the Statler Brothers.
Yeah.
Is where we come from. So growing up, in and around the music business with our dad's home being in Staunton, but being worldwide celebrities, was an interesting ride, but it inspired us from an early age to write and play and sing. And
Did you guys go on the road very often or times
as much
with
as
your dads?
we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun for us when we were kids, and especially in the summers, they would play fairs and festivals. Those were always fun shows to go to. And so, yeah, we would go out on 3 or 4 day weekends with them.
Did
And
you go on the bus?
oh, yes. Rode in the
Yeah.
bus and slept in the bunks and watched
Yeah.
the movies and ate popcorn up in the lounge. And I mean, the whole experience, we learned it early on and firsthand.
When you guys were on the road, and I don't know kind of what ages, I know you started playing music yourself pretty young, but were you guys watching at that point and on the side of like, okay, let's take notes of how do they interact with the tech crew at a venue, or and from like that side of things, or were you guys still in the mindset of like, we're kids, we're here to play, like have hang out, and where were you guys kind of at during that time?
It was a mix of both.
It was.
We were always eat up with every detail of it, from our dads to showing up at a county fair in Iowa, and they had sold 8,000 tickets. I mean, because they were headliners. There's no secret to how they ended up in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Right.
But they had three decades of really big success. So that was Langdon and I's childhood, those 3 decades, or in growing up in those times. So on the one hand, we just loved the music. We loved the band and stage sound and the sound production and the laughs. And so we ate all that up. But also when we were young like that, we'd get off the bus and go out to the fair, and they would be coming on stage and
Find the cotton candy first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The cotton candy was still important. But we loved everything about it, and that's what inspired us so much.
So when you guys did kind of come to the decision of, like, I think we kind of like this music thing, how did your family respond to it? Because I can imagine it can be either direction. It can either be super excited, or especially like having your family be in it and they know the difficulty, they know what it's like being on the road. Were they excited for you guys? Were they hesitant for you all? What was that process like when you guys were like, yep, we're doing music?
When we made that decision when we were in high school that we want to pursue music. And
it goes back to 14 and 16. I was 16, Lang was 14. And I remember that distinctively because I could drive and he couldn't drive yet. And I'd go pick him up at his house and we'd go have band practice. And that's where that all started. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, yeah, our dads and our parents, our families, everybody could see that this is, we had our sights on this. Very supportive, always. And our parents have always been supportive of what we want to do. And so, yeah, for the music business, they were in the music business. So it's funny, they've told the story as well. They would never be in a business and then discourage anybody else not to.
Especially a business that they were in for multiple decades.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, no, they were, to answer that question, no, they never said, I don't know about that. I'd go,
Have you thought about being an attorney? That may have been the one that they discouraged. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was us on the attorney part. Yeah, that was on us with the Wilson Fairchild. Exactly. No, but along with that, you're exactly right. So no, they always encouraged it. But another unique part of our story that really is unlike anybody else in the entertainment business, our dads would not sacrifice Staunton, Virginia, and their home for their career. They had offers to go to LA and Nashville and New York. And they said, and they unanimously agreed, no, if we can't do it from the Shenandoah Valley, then we're not going to do it. And they made it work.
Why was that? Like, why were they so committed to?
Because that's who they are.
This is them. And, if you know them, if you've ever seen them, talked to them, seen them in their shows, as he said, they have worldwide fame and they impacted a lot of people.
Oh, we still get calls all the time, all the time.
But they, by being in Staunton and around their people and going to their church and going to their grocery store and living in their neighborhoods, and it kept them humble. It kept them grounded. And that's no secret there. They'll tell you that as well. And it's really nice to see that.
From their experience, but also your guys's, because you guys do a lot of songwriting as well, in addition to performing. But I know it was really important to them to keep home and work. But do you feel like living here inspired any of how they wrote or performed, and same for you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
So when they found their niche, and we don't have enough time to talk about the history of the Statler brothers because we know it all, because we care. But when they found their niche in about 1970 with nostalgic songs, that's what all that was rooted in. All their hit songs, if you go back and look, where their experiences here growing up, being teenagers, the dairy right, those type of things is what built their career. And so yeah, it was a huge part of their story, but it was real, and that's what worked for them,
And then you guys now, like, why do you guys choose to still stay here and create?
We love it so much.
We do.
And you know what? And I'll say this: we've often questioned all the dead end roads that Langdon and I have been down in the music business. Nashville's only 8 hours away, so whether it's recording or it's TV, it's never been an inconvenience. We love the drive. We've been doing it for a long time. So we might have missed that somewhere along the way to say that was the Statler Brothers story of them being in Staunton, but it was just so entrenched in us. It's like why can't we do it from here too?
Yeah, you saw that there was an avenue for it,
and that it worked.
And so it has worked.
And we'll say this too, that we just came back from being in Texas for a couple of weeks, and beautiful scenery and food, and then we've been to the Midwest. We've been all over, and there's just great, it's great scenery everywhere you go. And you always think, man, I don't know, could I live here? But there's not a better feeling than when we come back through the Shenandoah Valley and see those mountains and the farmland, and that is home.
Yeah.
So,
and it still inspires.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is beautiful. So for anybody here living in Virginia and living in Staunton, don't take it for granted, because it is nice.
Good advice.
Yeah.
That's good advice, because it's easy to do, right? Like, we get so used to it. It's like, this stuff actually isn't normal to have everywhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And we run into people all over the country that have either visited here or been in the valley or the mountains, like, oh, it's so pretty up there. And it's like, we're blessed. This is where we're from. But we're also, a long standing tradition of being Virginians too, not only the history of how long it's been here, but from the mountains to the valleys to the coast, we love all of Virginia.
Yeah.
We just do,
Yeah. You guys were talking about earlier, the nostalgic sound really became synonymous with the Statler Brothers. But for you guys, when you did decide to pursue music, like, was country always kind of the lane for you guys? Or did you think, like, I'm going rock, I'm going grunge?
Exactly.
Just, because sometimes it can be encouraging, but also intimidating when you're a second generation performer. And it's like, do you do what you know and you're already good at and you love, or do you go a different lane just to go a different lane?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. We get asked that a lot. Second generation that's a different kind of monster, maybe to tackle.
Yeah,
sure. What's the famous song? I'm living in the shadow of a very famous man, from Hank Jr. to Hank Sr. And so we understand that, and it can be tricky. And because we never wanted to ride any coattails and be perceived that way. And again, we were a duo, they were a quartet. Sometimes it gets tricky when people expect something from you. Okay, you're part of the Statler Brothers, so you're going to come sing these types of songs with this 4-part harmony.
Almost a tribute show.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, we're not that.
Right.
So you have to get past the expectation of what people are thinking of you. And but then and we did. That was a journey. That was we wrote some, maybe on the fringe, different kind of music at times, or experimented differently to find our niche, to establish ourselves. But it really comes back home to when we decided to embrace who we are, our legacy, our family, and as we say and tell a lot of people, we kind of look like them, we kind of sound like them, and it is so cool to hear people when we do a show. And I promise you, this is one of the better comments and compliments that we get, is when they say, you guys, you got your own sound going. But it is so cool to hear the Statler Brothers sound come out as well.
Yeah.
And so somehow we satisfy both of those things, and it's not intentional. We don't necessarily sit down and say, well, let's try this. It is who we are, and we're very thankful for that people can hear who we are, Wilson Fairchild, but as well, it's very reminiscent of who our dads are.
Still feel connected.
Absolutely.
Sure, and along with what he said, and it is part of our story, is in the early days, we tried to establish our own thing. This is our songwriting. We're a duo, and rightfully so, because if you're gonna make it in the music business at any level, you've got to have your own thing to offer just that simple, with talent of some sort. And, but 10 years ago, maybe, when we said, you know what, we've got to embrace this. We don't mind people seeing and hearing our dads through us. It's just how do you incorporate that instead of separate it, And it's been the best thing we've ever done. Every fan at every show has the same reaction. They hear that Statler Brothers sound and they're like, oh my gosh, we thought it was gone since they had retired, but we got to close our eyes and hear it again. That means the world to us.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Especially like in the evolving landscape, I would say, of country music, it probably does feel good for people to be able to hear the unique sound that you guys have. That is, there's a very grounded sound, but there's also a sound of like the rooted true country that got people to love country initially, that we don't hear quite as often anymore, but there's such a desire for it.
There is. And so now in this age, there's this booming thing going on from like 90s country and traditional, and it seems to be, huge on social media. But another part of me and Langdon's story, separate from the Statlers, is we got 70s music in our ears when we were young.
Oh.
And it is all a derivative of that.
Yeah.
And that's even country and rock. And everything we've ever done, it kind of just evolves back to that. That's what we love the most.
70s decade was the best decade for music across all the genres. That's our opinion.
That's our opinion.
But it was very different. And we were born in the 70s, but we always go back to, if you look at our playlist right now, it's going to have about 80% of 70s music on there.
Which song are you guys most likely to play on repeat the most on the road? Like from the car, I'll say, not performing from the car.
Yeah.
Well, while you're thinking about that, I just to add to that, because, we were just kids in the 70s when our dads were having those big hit records and selling millions of records and our whole thing. But I mean, then into the 90s when, after we graduated high school, college, early 20s, we're listening to cassette tapes from the 70s.
Yeah.
Like that was just where we were, and so then we fought the traditional thing for years because the industry was going in a different direction.
Yeah.
But now it seems to have come back around, and the music business always does that.
In some way.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we're both the babies of our families. So we're the youngest ones. So we have older siblings. So whatever they were listening to, we were listening to as well. But it always came back. But it always came back to country music.
Yeah.
For us too.
Yeah.
So we know a lot of music. Even if even we heard it secondhand in the house.
Yeah, all the 80s rock that we know came from our brother and sister's bedrooms, but we could hear it, so it's all in
the
there.
Egg stage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think of a song?
A song of what is on repeat?
Yeah. What do you play the most?
Music is so about the mood for me.
Well, when we talk about, when I talk about classic country stuff, I talk about, Gene Watson, Farewell Party. If we talked about George Jones, we talk about He Stopped Loving Her Today. Those are the type of songs, if I hear, I'm not changing.
Right. Don't you dare touch that button.
Channel. Yeah. Exactly.
Merle Haggard, that's the way love
Ronnie
goes.
Millsap, Tammy Wynette. But even going back to like Loretta Lynn, Coal Miner's Daughter, if I hear that come on, I'm gonna.
That's my neck of the woods.
There you go.
No.
I'm gonna listen to it.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing will get you pumped up like Fist City. Like, take down the world if you need to.
Oh my God. This is the greatest.
This is. She just referenced Fist City.
Bam.
Hey, you better be careful. People are gonna know you're from Kentucky.
Oh yeah.
You don't want that word getting out.
Let me tell you. So where she's from, everybody calls her Loretti, like her family. So yep. If I can talk to us about little Loretti, we'll chat about that anytime.
The Coal Miner's Daughter is arguably one of our top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Never gets
and we
old.
quote from that all the time. That's one of those movies when it's on. If you pass by it, you're like, all right, I don't know what I'm done.
Shut down the evening.
Yes,
We're not doing anything.
I'm watching it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned George Jones. We got to chat about him. So you guys are connected to him in many ways from performance. Tell us the George Jones story. Also, pause. How awesome of a life is it that I can look at you and say, tell us the George Jones story? Like,
see,
I love it.
It makes me feel so important. I really appreciate that. That's
amazing.
He tells he knows the George story. Tell that. That's good.
Yeah. So we, yeah, you just sit there. That's fine. So I don't know how many years ago, let's say 10 years ago, close to it. I heard that George Jones was coming to Charlottesville over at the amphitheater. And we had never seen him in concert before. And, of course, he was older in the later part of his career. But I called Langdon and I said, hey, George Jones is coming to Charlottesville. We got to go. He said, oh, that'd be great. He said, it'd be even better if we could open up that show. And I said, yeah, it would be.
I knew I've had dared him. I just I bet you can't do it.
Bet you can't do it. So I said, well, let me call somebody. So I found out who the promoter of the show was, and I called him. And I said, hey, man, Will Reed, Wilson Fairchild. I said, you got George Jones coming in, right? He said, yep, we sure do. And I said, do you have an opener? He said, no, we don't. I said, we would love to open up that show. And he said, well, I don't care if you open, but I'm not going to pay you. I said, no problem. What time do we be there? We'll be there.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things in everybody's musical career that you just grab opportunities, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we did. We got to open up that show with our band, and it was great. It was a great night, something to remember, something we could tell our grandkids, Because the other thing that we've always fought with our Statler Brother connection, people just assume we know all the stars. People just assume.
Just call them up.
Yeah, of course they open for George, but it doesn't work that way. So after the show, it was great, but it was like, that's just not enough. So I got on the computer and found out that he was going to be in Pennsylvania at Penn's Peak the next weekend. So I called that promoter and I said, hey, man, we're on tour with George Jones. What time do we open?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I did. And he said, well, I don't care if you're going to be the opener, but I'm not paying you.
We've heard that before.
I said, no. I said, don't worry. We worked for free last weekend. And so we did it again. We drove to Pennsylvania for free. And that time it worked. We got to meet George and we got to meet his wife, Nancy, and the band. And everybody was so nice. And see, at that time, he was still out doing the classic country things. Our dads were retired off the road. They weren't working anymore. And so that worked. So then for the next 3 to 4 years, we would drive around in Langdon's truck with 2 guitars, and they would let us open up their shows.
They were on the bus up in front of us, and we were in the truck following behind.
Yeah.
And we would do 30 to 40 minutes before his shows.
Yep.
That's amazing. What song did you guys typically close your set with?
Oh, that's a good one.
It could have been one of ours. We got a song called Country On that we do, that we've written. It's out there. And it's a real upbeat thing, just a tribute to loving country music and never let it die type thing. We might have finished with a Statler song. The cool thing about in those audiences, so he would be at theaters that might have 1,000, 1,500 people, that type thing. But we would literally get in front of them, and all those people came to see George, right? Yeah. And they would have no idea who we were. But by the end of our 30 to 45 minute set, we'd get a standing ovation.
They were with you.
Oh,
yeah, isn't that the best feeling in the world? You're like,
really
yep,
is.
they're with us.
It is, and all those examples is what inspired us to keep going and keep going and keep going, and build our own thing. It was nice.
Yeah. So now that you guys, so especially in like your songwriting, where do you guys normally kind of draw your inspiration? Do you feel like it is a lot of real life, or do you just kind of make up a story, or is it like reminiscent on chasing down George Jones, and that's what inspires the story? How do you guys come up with the songs?
All the above.
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
No, as a songwriter or as a writer, you always have your antenna out, and you're always looking for a hook. We are very observant guys that we're and that's because you never know where the next idea, where the next title. We're just aligned, and we'll say that to each other and say, hey, I was at the bank and I went through the drive-through and the teller said this to me. Is that anything?
I mean, if it worked for Jolene, it can work for,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then, so it's great too of our relationship, how honest we are with each other, and we use each other as a sounding board when it comes to that. And you're like, oh yeah, I can see that. I like, what it could be. And then it'll grow and snowball into a song, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And then some other times you're like, yeah, I don't know. Put it down in your book, but we'll see
Next
if it.
time we'll talk about
Yeah.
So I think you just have to be tuned in and always aware and looking for where the next idea might come from, and it's something we enjoy doing. So, but you're saying, where does are they true, or do we make them up? It's all of that.
Yeah.
You draw on your own experiences, and whether I'll challenge any writer out there, from a book to a song to a poem to whatever. You may have a good creative imagination, but there's going to be a little bit of truth in whatever you've just written,
Yeah.
because you're going to draw on your own experiences some way. Because I think a good writer, they write what they know, and so there's going to be a part of them, him or her, in the writing.
Well, that was something even we've talked on the podcast, coming up with Kalela Williams, who is an author from or that lives in Staunton now, and we were talking about that even with, she has a fictional book, but when you edit though, or how long it takes to get a book from idea to publish to out in the world, how much her own experience shifted what the final product of the book was. Even though it was fictional, like her own experience in life very much shifted from the editing to just what is finally released out there.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And it's all over the place. And I wanted to share also, I was thinking as Langdon was talking. So we went through a period of real creative when we were younger, before we had wives and families, to where we were writing all the time and, putting them in the folder. And we've got tons of songs to this day that nobody's ever heard before, just because we would demo 3, go play them for people in Nashville. They'd tell us how bad they were. The record label would say, y'all sound pretty good, but we don't need that right now. Then we'd go home.
That's one of those dead end roads he was talking about.
Sure.
We'd write 3 more songs. We'd go to town, do it all over again. And I tell you all that to say this, to inspiration for anybody out there writing. We're in between records right now with the Gaither Music Group. We released one last year, but we just finished recording the next one that'll be out next year. And we got them to agree for us to record one of the things that he and I had written together. And the song is called "Amazing What a Hug Can Do." And it's just a real upbeat, positive life story type story song. And that song's been in the folder how long?
Over
20 years.
Over 20 years, close to 25 years.
So how much of it do you think is also, I mean, there's the whole thing about right place, right time, but it's also, I think, somewhat the same with like whatever product we put out, even music is it's not, they may have said, hey, this is a bad song. Well, no, it's not. It just may not be connecting with you and what they're seeing as a trend or the topic of the world at that point.
Sure.
And it's sometimes it's so often just like the timing of it.
Timing is everything in the music business.
And as a writer, I've always felt too that it doesn't necessarily have to be good, because good is subjective.
Sure.
But it has to be relatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can feel like, man, I wrote a bad song, but if it relates to you, then that's the best song you've ever heard.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that spoke to me, or that's exactly what I was going through, or that made me feel this way. Well, then it's a great song.
Yeah.
But maybe you can break it down and like, it doesn't rhyme and it's out of meter, and you can say, well, that's a bad song.
Like,
so
that one actually just is right.
Right. But that's something we always try to do in our songwriting, is be relatable. Country music is real stories about real people and real situations. So that's what we did with this song in particular he's talking about. It's amazing what a hug can do. Just because it's 25 years old doesn't mean it's an old song. If you haven't heard it, it's not an old
Brand
song.
new,
And only we know that it is how long it's been in the folder. But if it was good then, and we still feel like it's good here, then
it's the timing thing. Like
it's the timing of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So as a duo, how do you guys balance like the final product or the process, even like when you guys are creating music or even a performance that's like, all right, we're gonna lay out this set, or somebody's like, that maybe guitar's a little too much in this one, or how do you guys balance each other from a creative standpoint?
I think the easiest answer to that is he and I are so much alike in so many ways.
I bet you can just read each other's minds at this point.
Yeah, we do. And our relationship has always been that way because we've been so tight since we were kids. Everything from when our dads were on the roads and we were with our moms, and we were in some ways more like brothers than cousins.
We'd always I'd call his mom and act like him, and they couldn't tell the difference.
They couldn't tell the difference.
That's true.
Well, I'm sure people all the time assume you guys are brothers anyway.
Yes, we get that, and it's just easier to go along with it. Absolutely.
Now your brother over there. Yep.
Yep, that's him.
That's him. It's just
yeah. We've only heard it about 1,000 times, and no. I think to sum up our relationship musically, whether it's got to do with guitars or a song lyric or it's got to do with singing, One of us will speak up if you're just not seeing it, hearing it, like it, and say, hey, that might be okay, but what about this? And most usually we just work it out. But most usually we're on the same page.
And I think too, there's two things there. We're honest with each other, and we're also open to throw out a crazy idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, we don't want everything.
I'm not honest, but I guess he thinks he's honest. That's fine.
I don't imagine that.
yeah.
That you, I don't think I could picture being like not honest.
Yeah, sure, I've been honest.
So we're open to that. Like, okay, well, let me hear it one time and let's see if it works. But so you have to be open to new, fresh, crazy, wild, outside of the box ideas, but at the same time, still rein each other back in and know who we are.
Yeah. Do you think being family has helped you guys like come to solutions more?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, there was a piece of advice from a good friend of ours in the music business a long time ago. And we were talking then about who we are, our sound, what should we do, what shouldn't we do. And he was a great, again, sounding board. And he told us then, and we never forget it, he said, you guys push yourselves, but believe me, he said, I know you all well enough. You're not going to go outside of the box where you're uncomfortable. And be somebody you're not.
Right.
And
you're not going to go too far.
Right. And he trusted us that we could trust ourselves that way.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. And so that was good to hear that from somebody else who knew that about us and said, go ahead and try to push yourselves in different areas, whether it's your writing or your sound or your music. Mm-hmm. But believe me, you're not going to go too far to where it's not going to be believable.
Different people.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. All right, you guys have spent a lot of time on the road, either, with your dads, but also yourselves. Any like standout road stories? I'm sure it could be endless.
See, we got a lot of those 3.5 years we were with George Jones. There's some stories in there.
We were out in the in South Dakota, North Dakota, somewhere at one time, and there's this park called Bear Country.
Bear Country, USA.
I don't know if it's still there or not. It's like I think it's South Dakota. It was South Dakota. Yeah. And it's called Bear Country, and you pay to drive in where all the bears are.
Oh, you pay to go into Bear Country? That's not a place I would pay to go.
I don't know if it's still like a legal establishment or not, but when we were there years ago,
we had a day off.
We had a day off, and we're like, well, we're going to Bear Country. We want to see a bear. So we were in a lease bus. And the guy, our buddy who was driving, he's like, are y'all sure y'all want to do this? Like, absolutely. So it was like the safari park down in, Natural Bridge, but it was Bear Country. And so we paid and we drove through with the bus through Bear Country. And sure enough, it was like cows out in the field. They had bears everywhere. But the funniest part was when we got in there and we stopped, we were all looking at the bears. Langdon opens the door to scare the driver because there's like a bear. There's
like 100 bears in this park.
He's yelling, close the door. You know what's going to happen if that bear gets up in here with me. And that was fun. That was on the road.
The old bear was sticking his head up in our butt. What's going on here? And our driver's like, shut the door.
And you guys paid for that.
We did.
We paid for that.
Do you guys remember when Gypsy Hill Park had bears in it?
I don't.
I just had this conversation the other day with one of my kids. I don't remember it, but I knew about it.
But our older siblings remember and have talked about, oh, yeah, we go out to the park and see the bear in the cage out there. And I know that it was true, but I never saw it. It was before my time.
Story happened. So, speaking of the park, you said as an unexpected segue.
That was good. Good segue. I like.
The bears are not there anymore.
Right. Nope.
But let's talk about Happy Birthday America. And I will say, Gypsy Hill Park, it is just, oh my gosh, we are so blessed to have
it's awesome.
This park. One, it's huge, but it is one of the most stunning city community parks I've been in.
It is.
And coming up on 4th of July, we have Happy Birthday America, which is just like a full celebration. And so tell us about how it started, which you guys are connected to, and how we got to where we're at now and what we can expect this year.
Sure.
This is important to us as well.
Sure.
Again, back to our family. In 1970, the Statler brothers were always being asked to be a part of different charities and events and offer their time. And they wanted to say yes to all of it, but they just couldn't. So they came up and said, you know what, let's just have our own celebration. Let's do it on the 4th of July in the park.
Yeah.
And that way we'll invite organizations and civic organizations and
Everybody
charities.
just gathered
Everybody
together.
come
once, yeah.
together.
And they offered to do a free show.
Yeah, and it was free.
Yeah.
And it was also a way for, again, all these other organizations to make money, to come sell food or games.
And this is also, I mean, they were starting when they were at their peak, like all the way through when they were doing this.
Yes. In 1970, they were still with Johnny Cash. They were with his show. But this is something that they wanted to do for the city of Staunton. And so it did. It started out, and there's about 500 people who came to that first one in the 70s. And then and it grew, and the kind of their format was, always have a parade and old cars, and they would have a special musical guest. And at the time, they were with Johnny Cash, and he said, I'll come play it, and he came and played it for free. And from then on, that was the structure for 25 years. They did it from 1970 to 1994. They called their celebration "Happy Birthday USA," and it was huge. Our town grew to over 100,000 people over that week
and
of
we're
the
a town
4th.
of 25,000 people, less than even.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
And
wild.
we always, again, it's something we've always known in our lives.
Yes.
And we saw it grow, and we saw how big it became. And it hit us too. On their plaque in the Hall of Fame, it mentions "Happy Birthday USA." We thought, wow, that really was a big deal. Not only to us or to Stantonian.
We just enjoyed it, but it
Right,
was
it's
a really
just
big
But it's
deal.
a big deal, and a big feather in their cap and in their career of what they did. So anyway, that was their way of giving back to the community. And then they stopped doing it after 25 years. The celebration continued on in a different committee, and they renamed it, but it still continued for the city of Staunton. And then in 2017, that committee approached me and Will and said, "Would you guys be interested in getting back involved?" And we were. And we thought about it and said, yeah. So we then went out and we got our own committee of some wonderful volunteers and different people in different places throughout the community.
And started our own nonprofit to do this.
And we called it Happy Birthday America. So, and it's been going on ever since, the same place. And it takes place at John Moxie Stadium, which is the baseball field in Gypsy Hill Park. And we set up a big stage in the center field, and it's entirely free for you to be there. And to do a show in our times in 2025, to be able to offer that for free,
full day, basically,
And on July 3rd, we kick it off with a Vesper service, and we got a beauty pageant that happens before that. But we have a parade of 150 entries, and a 5K. And just games, food. It's all family oriented, and
it's a time that the days feel good. Like the days feel they feel without so much worry, and they feel like real community, and
And I'm serious. You have no idea how much we appreciate you saying that, because when we jumped back in, we had enough support and said, this is the right thing to do, and we wanted to bring it back for all those same reasons, and we wanted to do it like our dads did it. We wanted to offer a free show. Langdon and I do it for free. The sponsors have lined up to help us get artists in here, which is great, because that was a key component to say, we can't ask them to come for free, but if we can get sponsors to do it, we can orchestrate this and make it happen, And that's what we get out of it too. We miss the feeling of the 4th. I'll never forget the first or second year that we jumped back in. We rode with our dads out there when they were setting up the midway and all that. And they said, it feels like the 4th again for the first time since they had walked away years ago. And, but no, the community spirit and the people that are helping us do this, make it happen. And everybody wanted it. And that's what Langdon and I said. If everybody wants to do this, we will, because we can't do it by ourselves, but back to the credit of all the people that we asked, and we got some pretty good friends in Staunton.
And firsthand too, being with tourism here in Staunton, We have meetings throughout the year. It's not like, oh yeah, the 4th is coming up. We
It's
better
like
get
there's a couple weeks off
Yeah,
after
right.
the event happens. It's like,
Yes.
okay, everybody catch your breath, and then
Yeah.
planning goes right back
We
in.
still have a meeting
Yep.
in July, at
Mhm.
the end of July, for everybody to bring their notes to say, hey, what
Yeah.
was good? What do we need to tweak or any of that? But we meet with the city and Parks and Rec and Public Works and tourism, the police, the fire, all the way down through everybody, those important components in the city. And a high five to every one of you all for
It's a good team for sure.
It is a good team.
That's how we met you. I mean, you were so nice in a Zoom. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm known to be just a terror.
Right. When I saw you on the screen, I'm like, well, she's going to be hard to deal with.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, she's from Kentucky.
Yep.
Like, this is
Yeah.
great.
Does it?
I bet she knows that song, Fifth City.
Right? Heard it a time or two. Yeah. I bet it makes your dad super proud or happy or like feel good that you guys are now in the year-round meetings with the city, like as important as Staunton has always been to them, and them very much so to Staunton, like to now see you guys not only here and still loving the city, but having that relationship with the community as a whole. But I imagine that's, for a parent, that's all you could wish for, is to see that work continue.
I know that's true, and of course it is true, and certainly that's not something that me and Langdon think about, but it goes right in line with everything else that's been a part of our lives. We do things that we believe in,
If it doesn't feel right, we're not going to do it.
That's right, and we don't, we're honest. Back to being honest people, we are, but back to having kids and values, and we're very old fashioned, but with the Staunton connection, it's just been really nice because it's worked. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a fun event. Last year was my first year, and the number of people I met that, especially like multi-generational families, were coming because, I can't even tell you how many people they're like, I've been coming for 20 years or whatever. And they're like, this is my grandson. He's been coming for 4 years. We're so excited he's here. And then so many from obviously out of state. Cause I think that's what's special too, is like, it's such obviously a great event for our community to come to, but it's also one that's like, come sit at the table with us. The door's open. Like, come join us, especially on this kind of event. So it's great, I think, for visitors to come, for people coming for the first time, or if they've been to Staunton a bunch, you get to see this whole other side of it. And it's just a great come together, which is what celebrating America should be. Is just, everybody coming together.
That's exactly right.
With so many events or celebrations or whatever, there's usually a purpose, or it can get political, or a cause, or any of that stuff. That is not what this is about. It is who's not going to be able to want to come out and celebrate America, So it's red, white, and blue, and it's with your family. And but there's and we hear too, by the way, in our travels, and people come up to us and they learn in our show that we are doing the Happy Birthday America again. And it's so cool to hear people come up and say, oh yeah, I went to my first 4th of July concert in Staunton in 1983.
Yeah.
And I met the nicest people there, and I'm still friends with them. And this person may live in Missouri, and they're like, but this person, my best friend, they live in Massachusetts, and we still stay in touch. And you're like, that's really cool that they came. They're friendships that have been born out of Staunton because of the celebration. And that's really nice to hear.
I'm so excited. 4th of July, things kick off on the 3rd typically, but of course we'll chat about and share out all the places people can see the lineup and things to do and follow along with it. But I know you guys mentioned you guys have music coming up. What can we expect from you guys coming up?
We do. We like I said, we are with Gaither Music Group, and we've signed with them, and we have 2 CDs that have been out. First one was called Statler Made. And we went in and recorded 6 Statler hits, and then 3 country hits and 3 gospel songs, which is really cool because those 3 genres of music are really who we are. Yeah. Again, it's what we grew up with, and means a lot to us. So, and again, with the Statler connection, it just made sense for that to be called Statler Made. And so we came across that. We're like, yeah, that's exactly what the title needs to be. And then we have also released a instrumental Christmas CD with Gaither Music Group called Christmas Guitars. We both play guitars, and this was something that we've always had on the list to do, and we did. And
one of my favorite, I don't remember what show it was, but on one of your guys' YouTube videos, one of the comments was just, "Those boys can play guitar."
it's good.
Yes.
I don't know if that's their voice, but
Yes,
that's how I
you
read
can.
it.
That's how you read it. I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
But anyway, what's
yes.
coming up?
Yeah. So that's what has been, and then now what's coming up is another CD. Yeah, we can talk about what it's called and everything about it.
Well, absolutely. And we're in between. We don't know exactly the release date yet, but we finished doing it. But again, we kind of found a home with Gaither. They're super nice people, but that company has branched out from not just doing gospel stuff. They're releasing these records of ours as country records. So it fits their audience, but it also gives us the opportunity to give it to our audience. And it's just a really nice fit. So the next one, we're pretty sure is going to be called Wilson Fairchild American Songbook.
Ooh.
But it's a collection of big, huge American songs.
Yeah. You'll know the words to all of them.
Some of them we stretched that our fans will probably say, well, that was really cool, but we didn't see y'all doing that song.
Okay.
So even for the first time, we stretched it to Americana, big American songs.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, we're
That's
really
freaking
excited
nice.
about the record.
Yeah.
And along with what Langdon said, we've been producing and our own music for years now. And all that stuff's everywhere, of course. You can stream it and find it as long as you look up Wilson Fairchild.
But yeah, this next album's got a little bit of maybe some rock music on there, a little pop.
A little 70s rock?
Absolutely. And a little, of course, country and gospel. So you do.
But
you look.
Sounds like Wilson Fairchild.
Yeah, it's our take on all of it.
We've got the greatest producers, two of our best friends, and we've only known them for a couple of years now. And those guys fell in love with what we did, and we fell in love with them. But they got it immediately. They were like, it doesn't matter what y'all do, you always put your own spin on it. And that's and you know, we thank the good Lord for that, because that's just the way it comes out. But
yeah,
put the WF spin on it.
Michael Sykes and Johnny Minnick are the two producers he's talking about,
nice.
and friends we got. But it's fun recording with them and what we bring to the table. Those guys would kind of look. All right, wait a minute. I wasn't expecting y'all to sing that part. Let me think about.
Let's
Hold
come
on.
back. Hold on a second.
Do that.
Wrong.
It was. I wasn't
Sure you wanted to do it like
Let's just do it
okay
again.
then.
That's hilarious. What if we look at it this way?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that kind of team is so important, though. Those that can, like you said, push you to try new things, but also kind of know your sweet spot and find
Yes.
how to cultivate those together.
And again, to be honest with each other with it.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
What's this honesty word you keep bringing up? I'm not familiar with it. What does that mean? Will you
Being
tell me
honest
later?
about the honesty, hopefully. Yeah. No. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today, for the work you guys do in Staunton, especially with Happy Birthday America. I can't wait for it this year. It's going to be great. I know the weather's going to be in our favor. And even if it's not, you know what? It was great last year. We had a little liquid sunshine, I like to say.
Right.
And people were still so happy.
Yeah.
So happy. It was just... I could go on forever, but it was great. But thank you guys so much. Thanks for joining us. And I know you guys are on the road a bunch, so a lot of opportunities for people to catch your shows really all over yonder,
We're
places.
At WilsonFairchild.com.
Yeah.
You can keep up with us there. Of course, all the social medias to see a full list of the lineup and everything that's happening for Happy Birthday America. That's at happybirthday.america.org. But we'll be splashing some news as we get closer to July 4th as well throughout social media also.
But in all seriousness, if you Google Wilson Fairchild, it'll just take you to places and everybody will know how great we are.
Do it now. Well, do that after you...
The Google search. How great is Wilson Fairchild?
They'll find out.
We're just going to start infiltrating all the AI systems to just...
Right.
Fantastic. The world's best thing ever.
Are they as awesome as they say they are?
And by the way, you are a wonderful addition to Staunton with your job with tourism.
You guys are so nice. We have such a good team. We really do. The
You
community
do.
as a whole, it's so fun when like community wide people just they lean in and they're like, let's grow. Let's create something great. Let's let's keep making things even better and more welcoming and new. And yeah, it's
And
a
with
great
this
place to
podcast,
be.
what a cool thing you're doing here too.
Oh,
Great
this is
job.
great.
Thank you for
Shout
having
out
us.
to Nomad Media for making us look good.
Nomad
This
Media.
awesome.
Absolutely. We like you,
Thank you
Kyle.
guys for joining us and listening in. Happy birthday, America, coming up on July 4th. Make sure you make plans to come to Staunton and join us. Check out Wilson Fairchild, their website, to purchase their music, streaming services, all the things. Make sure you follow them and catch a show coming up. And if you like what you heard today, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a stranger. Just enjoy it yourself, but give us a 5-star review and share the word. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much.